Hello, everyone. Today we have a really an honor to have several experts in HR technology, and let me introduce some of our speakers. Please, if help us in order to do a small introduction in order that the people know a little bit about you. Raisa, can you help us to start to do your presentation?
Of course, I'll try my best. Well, first of all, I would like to greet everyone. Talking about HR, we are facing dual challenge from my personal perspective. We have to transform our HR operation. At the same time, we have to transform the workforce for the employees. And that's not only about HR mainly, that is about transforming the business. We have to get the digital mindset in order to be successful in the future from my personal point of view. And here we need to collect the data, we have to analyze the data, and we have to make it accessible to end users. And that is the main challenge. Um, we have to understand how our employees are going to benefit from the new technologies, and at the same time how or what type of impact the business will have. So talking about transformation and talking about digital inventions, we have to keep in mind that we are working with humans, and people's needs vary a lot. So that's why talking about transformation, we have to keep in mind that there has to be an adaptation of this transformation in each and every an individual case. And the last thing that I would like to make when we are talking about introducing a new technology, we have to keep in mind that it has to be fun to use it. And only in this way it can go viral, and people are going to talk, oh, listen, we've got this app or we've got this platform that is fun to use. Let's expand it. I'm looking forward to hearing other opinions, and I've got some more points that I would like to make, but maybe after listening to other colleagues. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you think if we, Lee, can you help us in order to do your presentation? What do you do?
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone. My name is Lee Beard. I work for Bouygues Energies and Services in the UK. Bouygues part of a large construction company that's global, specialises in construction, telecoms and media. I work in the services sector of the business in the UK as a regional director looking after facilities management and operations. So my responsibilities for HR are limited to that of my role. I'm not from a HR department, and I'm very fortunate that we have a fantastic HR department behind us, who are no doubt experiencing all of the issues of innovation, technology, and what the future looks like now. So anyway, that's a quick introduction from me, and I'm happy to contribute as we go.
Okay, welcome. Stephanie, welcome to this panel.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, to everybody. My name's Stephanie Warren, and I was formerly the operations director of a training provider in the UK. Anybody that understands what a training provider means, it is to give it a definition, we were the same as a further education college, so we were targeting young adults and apprenticeships and obviously adult training. Within my role as the operations director, I was also head of quality, and I was also head of HR because the business itself was relatively small. In my experience, and I think I'm going to go back to Raisa's point about us dealing with the human element, introducing technology, it must work for your business. If you're going to consider bringing technology in, you must ensure that it aligns with your strategy and culture and the size of your business. You could overwhelm your employees. if you introduce something that is not conducive with the culture. In the past, we have used automated screening, which is very, very strong as part of the sifting and obviously the screening, the multiple potential employees that have applied for roles with us. And that skills assessment allows you to identify and gives you a number of factors for you to, if you've got an overwhelming number of people recruited, applying for your role. The one area that we never used, which perhaps is in manufacturing or in call centers, or is the analytical data, where you're actually measuring performance. Where I know particular roles in the UK where there is an operational software where staff will log on and they will have their every single click of their computer, every single process that they perform. Now, depending on where you work, that may or may not be something that is measurable and appropriate, but in the right context, it would work. But those are the three areas that I have experienced or I've heard of in England that have been used in a variety of businesses. But like everybody else, got lots more comments to make, but I will now pass this on to other members of the panel.
Okay.
Welcome.
Can I come in here, Madam Guillermo?
Yeah, we are doing a small introduction, so we can continue with you, Rohit, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rohit Talwar. I'm a futurist. So we are in education, executive education, research and consultancy, advising companies, governments and investors around the world on the emerging future and the implications of that for the future of work, for the future of HR and the future of learning and development. And what I'd say very briefly about this is that most organizations now, when they're introducing technology, what they're introducing is in advance of the capabilities of most of their workforce. And if we look at what's coming in the next few years with robotic process automation, with artificial intelligence, with blockchain, with 5G, that gap is going to grow very quickly because the technologies are moving fast, the prices are dropping, and the capabilities of those technologies are just incredible and growing faster. And so the real challenge now, I think, for organizations around technology is to not just have digital literacy, but real digital intimacy, to make sure our leaders truly understand the technology and are not just trying to find technology that fits the business, but are thinking about how do we change the business to take real advantage of the technologies that are coming through, and then making sure that we are really investing in our workforce in terms of their digital literacy, their dexterity, and their mastery of technology, and pushing them to be learning continuously so they're upgrading their skills, because the environment is becoming more competitive. In the short term, technology is going to be replacing jobs. So people need to take greater responsibility for their own learning so they can find new opportunities and create new opportunities. So the real challenge now, I think, around technology is to recognize how fast it's moving and to really emphasize that focus on developing deep digital literacy.
Okay, super interesting. Okay, thank you, Rob. So we can continue with you, Artem.
Have we brought Artem in?
I think that is not listening. Can you continue with you, Ludmila?
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean me? Yeah.
Yeah. If you have.
Excuse me. My English skills is not very good, so excuse me. I understand everything you say about the problems, which is which includes technologies and HR. We focus in our work on a special combination of digital data in HR and human moral, cultural, and how to solve the problem. For once, one time you need to really to get a really digital characteristic of people work.
Okay.
From the next side, you need to be a human, and how to combine these principles in software, because it's really interesting problem, I think. We try to make some models and make a theory how to use it in life and real business.
Okay, super interesting to have a data guy here, because it's everything we can track many things of the people we are doing, etc. So welcome. So we can continue with you, Tatiana. Please tell us a little bit about your position, what do you do, please?
Well, Tatiana has some problems with her mic, and she texted me and she asked me to introduce the challenge that she came with, and she would like to listen to your opinion. She's saying that nowadays we are facing the difficulty to teach our employees, very fast, because newcomers, they need as much attention as the old ones, but at the same time, we are kind of limited on time. And we are looking for the solution how to teach newcomers very fast.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go with you, Brian. Welcome to this round table, Brian.
Hello, everyone. I think I wouldn't disagree with anything that has been said today, but I think what we've got to remember is that business is about people. So if the technology doesn't work for the users, then it will never work in a business, and it will be a nugatory, or at worst, it will drive the business backwards. So for me, as a business owner and a business somebody who's been involved in training and for a very long time now, what I've learned is that technology should be driven by the business strategy. And unless the technology contributes to the strategy by making the business more efficient, more cost effective, it opens up new markets or whatever, then it is of no use to the business. So I particularly like Rohit's and his future, his looks into the future. And I totally agree that, but the one caveat I would put on is that business is about people.
Yeah.
So if the technology does not work for the people, the technology will never work in a business. And the people need to be brought, it needs to be driven by the users. And that's the one thing I've learned, put in IT systems and education systems for the past 35 years, is that if the users aren't involved and don't define it, and it doesn't align with the strategy of the business, then it will not work.
Okay, welcome, Brian. Okay, Christina, please help us and go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to, can I see Lee? Is Lee already to introduce him? Lee Beard from Bouygues.
Yeah.
Hi, Lee. I just wanted to bring you in at this point because you're a huge company with many employees. And we've heard you speak before on your innovation platform. So there's two things I've got to ask you to speak about is how you engage people, because, quite rightly, Brian said it's about human beings, but also it's connecting the fact that we've got human beings and how we leverage their brain, what they have in the company to actually propel the business forward. So could you just touch on that, please?
Yeah, sure, Christine. it's interesting what Brian said a moment ago about it being aligned to strategy, and the innovation platform and the innovation approach that we took some years ago was essentially the core of one of our strategies. And we refresh our strategies every year actually, but globally every 5 years, looking at what are we doing as an organization. And back in 2015 it was all about collaboration, innovation, bringing people on together and making sure that together we were stronger. And incidentally, our new strategy now is Together Stronger, so it almost goes hand in hand. So previous to this, it was we called it BS 2020, which was a 5-year strategy in terms of collaboration, innovation and bringing people together. And I think one of the things that you have to recognize as a business is that good ideas are not exclusive to management. In fact, some of the best ideas live in the workforce. The people that are out every single day doing the job, they know where the efficiencies are, they know what the frustrations are. Staff turnover is a result of many of these things. So one of the things that we tried to do, there's many things that we tried to do, but one of them in particular was around how do we be more inclusive in the way we innovate and what do we need to change. And I think innovation for us is, initially people think you've got to reinvent the wheel, you've got to do something big, there needs to be fireworks, but essentially it's some of the smaller things that really make a difference. So what we did was we opened up a platform. It was a digital platform, an app, where pretty much any person in the organisation, whether they be a manager, administrator, cleaner, engineer, electrician, no matter who they were, via an app or via conversation or via champions within the business, they could put forward an idea that was going to enhance or improve either the way that they went about their day-to-day work or how they was able to contribute to doing something better in or for the business. And we had a huge amount of success, and you're right, Christina, I did give you guys a presentation on that some time back. And it's still a system that we use today. We call it the Makers Program, and it's almost become mainstream. We do it as part of our day-to-day work. And as a group of regional directors in the business, we vote on ideas on a monthly basis in terms of what looks like good practice, best practice, must adopt, should adopt. Nothing's compulsory. As it's been said, this is a people business, so it's for people to choose what works best for them. But it's been a platform that's brought us a huge amount of success. And as I said earlier, it then leads us on to the next stage of the strategy, which is Together Further.
Well, that's a lovely title, that, Lee, because I was just thinking with everything that people have gone through, I suppose there's got to be some innovation on that platform and finding solutions to deal with resilience and also inclusion, mental well-being. Do you see ideas coming onto that platform, or do you have another mechanism for it?
We have it's a bit of a mixed bag, really, Christina. There's lots of ideas that come through that are people-centric or ideas on how we can be more inclusive, or how we can improve communications, or how we can get information better and quicker to our frontline staff. But one of the things that the business also does as part of its HR approach is it has a number of campaigns, and it's quite apt actually that you ask that, because this week has been our Diversity and Inclusion Week. And just to frame that for you, the original intention was that we was going to have a large face-to-face group meeting with as many staff as possible to talk about diversity and inclusion. And obviously the pandemic and the difficulties around COVID and travel and making people available is obviously quite a challenge. So they decided that rather than doing this diversity event in a day in a group, that they would split it up over a week, and we would do it in bite-sized chunks on Teams. And we've done an hour a day, Monday through to Friday, and we've had enormous engagement from the staff. And you can see the videos on and people dialing in, and you can see that you've got large groups of people dialing into one device. So I think that we estimate around 500 to 600 people at any one time watching these events. And it just shows you actually that at the end of that, there was some disappointment that we couldn't do it face to face. But the fact that we took the digital, we took advantage of the digital technology via Microsoft Teams, and I think the end result was even greater because it was far more inclusive. It was incredibly well presented, as you'd expect from Bouygues. Some really good professional speakers, but we just had a session literally a couple of hours ago just to celebrate the success of the event over the week. So yeah, it's a really good example there of what you can do as an organisation from an HR perspective in this changing world. And diversity and inclusion is clearly a big topic that's hugely misunderstood. And for me, it was incredibly educational over the last week. Opened my eyes and gives you an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. But actually having the I suppose the use of that digital technology made it actually much more of a success than I think it would have been if we'd have had a smaller group of select people in a face-to-face meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. And it's worthwhile knowing that we're going to have a question and answer with Lee, and he's going to go into a bit more detail about the organisation and how they're using technology to forward their business and add value to their employees and the customers. So that'll be as part of the full day. Brian, if I may, I'd like to bring you in at this point, and I want to think about your mentoring type activities with companies. And as we know, we've talked about human-centric activities and keeping the people in our thoughts as we look at our technologies. Where do you see human resources? Are they usually at the table? Are they part of the strategy in the organizations you go into? And if not, what could we be doing better, or what needs to happen in your opinion?
Okay, I think the thing that I'd like to start off with then is that nobody is omnipotent. We all have weak areas, and we all have things that we don't do well. In terms of mentoring, one of the things, or one of the lessons I've learned over my career, which has spanned from command of nuclear submarines right through to running a small training provider or a reasonable training provider, is that people have a tendency to want their hand held. So they're quite keen to learn, and they're quite keen to progress, but quite often don't have the wherewithal to do that. So, in terms of if we look at this in terms of adult learning theory, the way adults learn is that they will absorb knowledge, and then they will place that knowledge within a context of their own experience. And in some cases, that experience isn't sufficient, so it causes fear. So the way mentoring works is that you hold their hand and you show them they can do something, and you give them the confidence to be able to apply the knowledge and to gain the experience themselves, and then to socialize that. So when you're talking about HR, bluntly, in my experience, HR have been a major blocker to that, and it's normally facilitated by operational managers who just want a quick fix. They want their hand held. They want to be able to sort something out very quickly. They don't want a protracted program. So in terms of mentoring, it leverages adult learning theory. It leverages the way people learn and apply skill and develop skills within a business. So consequently, that it's a proven and extremely beneficial way of upskilling an organization or upskilling individuals in an organization in a rapid and safe environment. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yes, it does. There's still part of that question, though, isn't there, where we need to have an understanding of how many HR people feel that they have the skills to lead and influence the technology decisions, and how that impacts performance.
Yes, I
That's
would.
on its own, isn't it?
Yes, I would be quite controversial in answering that question. So to use the American euphemism, I'll take the fifth on that one.
Well, but I think that's the purpose, because this is a human resource discussion, and it is about technology. And I think it's fair to say that there are different levels of people involved in HR, and there are people who are champions. Maybe they're different, come into the company in a different way, but it'd be interesting to know what our viewers would think. How do they see HR at a strategic level at the table? Because it's really important, if they're not, that they should get the attributes and the skills to be there. They should understand technology, how to use metrics and data and get real insights to actually help people have a voice and move the business forward. Does anybody in our group here have a comment to make about HR and business? Are they at your strategic table, or do you have a comment?
I'm happy to share some thoughts there.
Thank you, Rohit.
So I mentioned earlier that we work with global clients around the future and what that could mean for the future of work, the future of HR, and the future of learning and development. And right now, what we're seeing is that on the one hand, we're saying the technology needs to serve the needs of the business, but we're also saying that we want the technology to be future-proofed, i.e. the technology we bring in, we want it to work for the next few years. So we're trying to use more advanced technologies. Typically, what we find is not just HR, but across the business, most people don't understand the technology. They don't understand what artificial intelligence is. They don't understand data science. They don't know how to use those kinds of insights from data to make good decisions. They don't understand how you can use the technology to predict behaviors and predict the kinds of questions that will come up, and therefore how you might use chatbots to respond to customers or internal demands. And so it really creates an imperative for us to say we have to take everyone up that digital learning journey. It's not just good enough to have an HR technology lead who talks to the technology providers inside and outside. The leadership team need to be involved in particular, really immersing themselves in the technology. And so they can start to think about, well, what do we want? We also need to make sure that we're bringing our staff members in to say, well, okay, if you look at the nature of your work and how it might change, what do you need to learn in order to make these systems work? Because we know that in most organizations, somewhere between 40 and 80% of the functionality we build never gets used. And that's why so many people fail to get a return on investment. So we need to, before we start buying HR technology or building the next application, make sure we're driving our leaders and our managers up the learning curve and having them really think about, well, what do I want the technology to do for me? And how do I want to change what we do to take advantage of the latest technologies? Because an awful lot of the time when we talk to clients, we find that they're not aware of what the technology could do. They're not aware of how they could serve internal business needs in a totally different manner with technology. So many clients we see don't understand that things like chatbots and machine learning would allow a huge amount of staff time to be freed up in the answering of routine questions, in the creation of employment contracts, in the development of career plans for people. There's so much of it that can be automated to free up time. But unless you know that's possible, you can't make good choices. And leaving it to IT isn't enough, because IT won't know exactly how you want to work. They'll make choices based on what they think is good. So for me, that digital literacy piece is critical now to the future of business, because if we look ahead, the future of business is about how we're going to use technology. The 10% of the entire global economy is in 6 big technology companies. If we think that we can talk about the future of business without it being technology centric, then we're talking about very small very people-oriented businesses where it's all about the people and the culture. But most businesses want to be bigger, they want to be more automated. So technology, to me, and technology literacy are the biggest priorities right now for any organization.
Yeah, and I think thanks for that, Rohit. And I know a lot of people who are HR at a strategic level, very good people, very knowledgeable, but they still struggle a little bit with the technology side. So there is, if you think, possibly a gap for mentoring and matching HR with mentors in this space. But also, sometimes companies are a bit reluctant to bring in the expertise that they don't have. And sometimes it's difficult to ask for things that you don't understand because you don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what you don't know. Does anyone have an opinion on that?
Yes, I do, and I have a practical example actually. I worked for a company called Skillsoft a few years ago, and I designed a program of what they called reverse mentoring, which was where the board or the senior leadership team of Unilever were mentored by new entrants, youngsters, and on their graduate scheme to help them understand. At the time, I mean, this was a good few years ago, but to understand broadband and how it would impact, to understand online forums and online selling and e-commerce, and this was a very successful program because it did exactly what it was meant to do, and it made the leadership team of Unilever aware of emerging technologies and how those technologies could be applied to the business. So again, it's not just their HR function that this extends to; it's all of the business functions, because as Rohit says, the technology is driving business, but business is still about people and still will be controlled by people. So these people need to understand, and if you have this reverse mentoring, they called it. Then there are ways of leveraging the understanding within the business to help educate and share, and it's a knowledge management sort of paradigm, really.
And also, Brian, this is where the senior exec, the board, this is where they have to lead by example and recognize where their gaps are. And show, if you like, the rest of the team that it's okay to have gaps in knowledge and how to take responsibility, if you like, for your own development. So there is a lot of dialogue that needs to take place in companies and an openness to acknowledge what your strengths and weaknesses are. Brian, sorry. Brian.
I was just going to say, sorry, I couldn't second Brian's example there because I recently went through last year a reverse digital mentoring program in exactly the same way that Brian's described, where we have an intake of graduates who are much younger, smarter, brighter and tech savvy than us. And as you say, we shouldn't be shy in saying that we don't have all of the skills. And we was embarking upon our digital transformation journey, probably fairly late, if I'm honest, but looking at how we was going to introduce Office 365, cloud technology, connectivity and remote working, for example. And I think that the initial program was probably likely to take 2 to 3 years, for example. And then the pandemic struck and we had to learn very quickly. And the plan for that rollout had to happen almost instantly. With lots of remote working from home and having to still supervise, but in a very different way. So the reverse digital mentoring was absolutely fantastic, and it brought me up to speed with a number of technologies and even just normal applications under Office 365 and things like Yammer and Teams, etc. That without that safe sort of mentoring scheme with some of our graduate team, would have been lost. And I took great value from it, and I'd recommend it to any organisation that's considering it.
That's great. And I think it's about conscious leadership. It's about being open, isn't it? Being proactive, not just doing the same old things and thinking that, you know, we've introduced something that's enough. It's about that constant innovation to our processes and streamlining, that constant attention. And that's why I was so impressed with what you guys have done with the innovation platform. So I just, we're getting close to our time. Actually, we've overrun a little bit, but I just want to address Raisa's question about developing the team and the learning options that's available for the team. And I know, Stephanie, you've been involved quite a lot in this space with the universities. I've been involved with Institute of Leadership and Management. So that there, as we said, there's a plethora of ways to develop our employees and so on, but we've all got the restriction of time, budgets, what to focus on. So Stephanie, have you got any thoughts and advice to give to Raisa?
I think there's a number of things that, again, I think time-wise, I can't sit here and do a lot of teaching and learning theory, but everything to do with upskilling, there's obviously new knowledge. And unless you have an example, I think this has been mentioned before, where you can see the advantages of introducing new technology, people will reject it. From having taught young people up to, as you say, CEOs in businesses, if you're trying to implement something that they don't see the value, then it will not happen. The other point I'd like to raise and confirm is the gentleman from, sorry, you've disappeared, everybody. It's the gentleman from Beard.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Beard, there you are. Sorry.
Lee,
Lee, where he actually has asked for contributions from employees in order for them to contribute to improvements in HR and improvements in their use of technology. So collaboration with the users of any change and implementation of any system is a sensible way for people to embrace that.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. That's quite a succinct answer. Now, I want to say to our viewers, our audience, our participants, this particular HR, it's only a short roundtable discussion. Each of our panel members will be doing a separate Q&A and going a little bit deeper into some of the technology and the learnings. So please look out for their individual platforms. This is meant to start you thinking about where your gaps are, what you need to do in the organization. So we hope that we fulfill that, giving you some ideas that there are options. There's a wealth of tools if you're open to look for them, and there are many people to support you on that journey. So this is the formal end of our roundtable. I want to thank all our participants, and I look forward to hearing from your hearing your individual presentations for the rest of Global Digital Week. Thank you.
Thank you.